very few CEOs will actually realize just how low their profits really are. And it doesn't mean that they're not making good money. It doesn't mean that it's not a good company. But it does mean is that we want to get real about what is it actually going to take to be able to create a sustainable business.
Is your current success putting a lot of demands on you? If you're good at what you do, and you are, then everyone wants you. But that's no way to scale. If you're delivering spectacular results, you should be commanding higher fees, working with only the best clients. Welcome to the Hands Off CEO podcast, where world-class agency owners and consultants learn how to fully monetize their expertise and scale profits by doing less. Here's your host, Mandi Ellefson.
Hello, this is Mandi Ellefson, host of the Hands Off CEO podcast. Today, I want to talk with you about how do you calculate real profits in your business? So one of the things that I commonly see with consulting agency CEOs is that they may be making quite a bit of money and taking it home, but profits can actually be diminishing over time. And they might actually be kind of foggy about it. And their numbers in their books might actually be wrong as well. I want to actually talk with you about why that is, even if you pay pretty good money to have an accountant put together your books, it still might be wrong. I want to share with you today how to actually calculate your real profitability. It's simple. It's straightforward. I promise you I'll make it as simple and straightforward as I can. And I want you to think about and evaluate how much profit are you actually bringing into your business. And this is important for you to know that, because if you don't know that, then you're really running your company blindly and you don't actually have an accurate benchmark to start from so that you can actually be able to grow your company from there. So how do you know how much you actually make? Let's talk about this. I'm going to use some numbers. Then you can input your own numbers, okay? We're going to run through a quick calculator. First, think about what is your total take home? Think, what was your gross sales? Now, let's say your gross sales, in this example I'm going to use, is $1.5 million of gross sales, all right? Now, the CEO, their total take home is $350,000, okay? They have total take home of $350,000. So how much profit are they actually making? Well, some might say that they're making 23% profit. They'll say, well, you know what? I took $350,000 home, grossed $1.5 million. So there's a 23% profit margin. Except it's not taking into account the most important employee of the whole company, which is the CEO. And it's not taking into account the actual costs in the company of employing this person. So that doesn't work. Then we also see that some folks will say, well, you know what? My salary is $100,000 a year, and what's left over is $250,000 of profit. On $1.5 million, my profit margin is 17%, right? Well, maybe let's take into consideration what is the market rate of the CEO. If they went out and got themselves a job, how much would they actually be compensated for their talents? Well, what I've seen is a CEO who is able to generate millions of dollars of growth in their company. They're worth a lot more than $100,000 a year. So let's just go ahead and let's say that their market rate is actually $250,000. All right. What does that mean for what the real profitability is of the company? What this actually means is if the market rate is actually $250,000 for how much the CEO would make. And let's look at what the real profitability is if you take into account how much the CEO should actually be making when you compare it to the market wage. Well, if the CEO is in total taking $350,000 of total earnings, including their salary, and their market rate is $250,000, what it means is that they're actually profiting $100,000. And $100,000, $1.5 million is actually a net profit margin of 6.7%. So that's a lot smaller than the other numbers we had talked about, that one person might say that they're profiting 23%. Another person might say that they're profiting 17%. Very few of them are going to actually give me the real number. Their real profitability is 6.7%. In fact, I have found very many CEOs at all. I'm trying to think of one right now off the top of my head who actually has gotten that number right. I'm not saying that there aren't any. There are plenty that do. It might just be because I can tell that they know their numbers so well that we don't really need to talk about that, like on a discovery call. But very few CEOs will actually realize just how low their profits really are. And it doesn't mean that they're not making good money. It doesn't mean that it's not a good company. But it does mean is that we want to get real about what is it actually going to take to be able to create a sustainable business. So can you see if you're actually only generating 6.7% profit, like in this scenario, can you see how this can make it quite difficult for the CEO to be able to step out of the day-to-day? Why? There's not enough profit in the business to be able to step back. The expenses are too high relative to the amount of income that's generating. So how do you fix that? There's a number of ways to fix that. You can cut down costs. You can be able to generate more sales. But my favorite way of doing this, first and foremost, before anything else, is to really look at the offer structure and look at, are you actually generating as much income from the existing clients that you have and the new clients you're selling to, especially to be able to reach your goals? And what I see in most cases, you're not. In most cases, the CEO gets so stuck in this cycle of not having enough profit to really step back out of some of these more senior level roles in the company. So as a result, they just kind of get stuck in so many different things. So what happens is they don't have enough time to go out and actually strategically generate more of the right type of sales. So what happens is the business gets very full of less than ideal clients. They're not bad clients, but they're all over the place. And you might have this client in one industry and another client in this industry and this client that wanted this smaller project. And then a few whale clients that demand a lot of your most senior level people, especially you as the CEO. This is a challenge that we see a lot. And the root cause really comes back to not having the profit and the cash flow to be able to have the right functions in place for the company to be sustainable. I know I've thrown out a lot of numbers at you, and I want you to see the root cause here. Then we can actually look at the most important things to fix. Because can you see how if you're not making enough money per client, and can you see if you have all these different clients that are coming in through referrals and there's not a lot of repeatability through it, can you see how this is difficult for your operations team to operationalize this and be able to run without you? Can you see how it's difficult for you to be able to train up a sales team to effectively be able to close sales without you? Can you see how this would be difficult to create a compelling offer without much focus because you just kind of do everything? So all these jumbled issues here, you can see it show up in the profit margins. So what we have seen with our clients when they've been able to get the right foundations in place is that they can literally double their gross profit margin. Gross profit margin is how much each individual client and project costs to deliver before all of your overhead, as a side note. I'm talking about this more in layman's terms. If we have some people here who are financial experts, awesome. But my real intention is to talk about this in a simple, straightforward, street sense kind of way. So we demystify this. This is a lot simpler than many financial experts may lead you to believe. And it can be quite simple. How we impact those profit margins, like I was mentioning, those double gross profit margins, is by getting really clear and focused on what is the direction that we want to grow the business. What do we want to become best in the world at? What is that irresistible offer that is going to be attracting in our very best clients? What that looks like is one client, one painful problem, and one outcome. What we have found is that most companies choose a really vague problem, if they choose one at all, and the client type is really broad, and the outcome is also really shallow and boring and not really aligned with what the client actually wants. It's not clarity. It's not some bits and bobs that you're doing. It's not deliverables. I promise you that's not what they want. And I know that most companies are thinking this way because I've looked at the websites of literally thousands of consulting companies and agencies, and the majority are positioned this way, even the ones that actually have pretty good positioning. There's so much opportunity to be able to get fine-tuned and focused on exactly who that soulmate client is, that profit sweet spot client, and build an irresistible offer around them. One of the things that I've seen even with our clients is that even as they're going through our irresistible offer system, that we take the cohorted process that takes about 4 weeks to put it together. And this has taken me 10 years to develop this. And we've been fine-tuning it, making it better and better every year. And I'm so proud of what we've been able to do with this and how it's been able to impact these CEOs. And how it's made it so much easier for them to scale. But what I have seen is that even with some of the training we're walking them through, even with listening to this and saying, yeah, I get it, I look through at their first stab at it and maybe even their second stab at it, and it's still pretty vague. It's still not specific enough to really get at that irresistible offer. And that's one of the things that we help them do. We help them dig deeper. We really push them to be able to make it that much sexier. What the end outcome looks like for this is going from, for example, we do affiliate marketing for these 5 different industries, to going to, we add $10 million of profitable growth for beauty and skincare brands. That's an example. They had no idea they could do that, but we were able to help them fine tune and focus it down so they really understood what actually they could get as a result of working with that business. And that took something, right? But as a result of it, they were able to double their price point. And that was just to start. I know that they've been able to increase their price even more than that, more than I can actually share at this moment. But I'll give you another example. It's a little clearer when you can say, well, this is the dollar amount, but it's not always that simple. One of our clients, they do work in the surveying space. They have a consulting company that's kind of an oddball type of company. And we really looked at, well, what is the bigger outcome of what you're doing? How do you really impact the work that they're doing? So we looked at what they're doing for job sites. And what we actually discovered is they were able to actually double their profitability in a very short amount of time. So we really looked at his process. This is not just about the offer, but it's also looking at the process and saying, how can we make this better? How can we make this the best in the world? What can we cut away from it so that we can be even better at these different pieces? And what we found out was that for this particular company, he was able to double their productivity, which literally added hundreds of thousands of dollars of net profit every year to these companies. So you can imagine how much more compelling that was than doing surveying, right? They were the best surveying company in the whole market, and they were completely busy, overloaded with work, but they were still charging a high level, high price kind of commodity still. So we got them out of like this mindset around just doing these project work to really this end-to-end program that created a tremendous transformation for these type of companies. And now they're standing in line waiting for this program to come out as they're developing it. It's so exciting. And in doing that, he saw this growth path to be able to 10x this company. It's just been so exciting to see what's been possible and how that's going to be increasing their prices. It's just tremendous. So that's a critical piece to really increase the profitability. I gave you a couple examples there. And if you'd like to see more examples, and if you'd like to see how this would actually fit for your company, and if you'd like to see how do I be able to apply this to my own company in a way where we don't turn off our best clients? How do we do this in a way where we can raise our prices without really losing revenue in the same time frame? How do we do this in a way where revenue grows and profit grows too? Well, we have a growth planning workshop coming up here. And if you are an agency CEO that has at least a $500,000 company, then I invite you to come and join us on this workshop. And we're going to be talking about how to build this irresistible offer. We're going to be talking about how to be able to plan your company's growth to be able to get to 5 million or 10 million or even beyond that. And we're going to be giving you our whole system so you can see end to end exactly how to do this. And we're going to be sharing some in-depth examples of how other companies have been able to accomplish this in a way where they've actually been able to work less and make more money. So if this sounds good to you, if your company is close to 7 figures or way beyond it, we have a number of people that are quite a bit further than that who are going to be at this growth planning workshop, really even up to $9 million in sales per year. Come to this workshop, come learn with us, and we will help you put together a growth plan for 2023. And we're going to be able to help you do it in a way that's going to add more ease to your business. It's going to add more profit. And it's just generally going to be so much more fun. So let's do this together. Let's look at your profitability. Let's look at how we can grow that and come to our growth planning workshop that we have coming up here in January. You can find a seat by going to handsoffceo.com/workshop. The seats are limited. I'm hoping that when this releases that there still are some seats that you can come and attend. And if you missed out, please reach out to our team. Or if you missed out, or maybe you're listening to this months later, you can always reach out to our team and apply to have a session with us and see what might be possible for your team otherwise. So I hope this has been a really informative episode for you. I hope there wasn't too many numbers and it was straightforward enough. This is Mandi Ellefson from the Hands Off CEO podcast signing off.